Hello and welcome to Hamer Reviews. My name is Christopher Hamer and today we're reviewing the Nikon 24 to 70mm f4S for the Z mount. Now, when Nikon launched the Z mount cameras, which are the Z6 and Z7, they launched it with 4 lenses, though only 3 were available. The 50mm 1.8s, as I've already reviewed, the 35mm 1.8s, and the kit lens, the 24 to 70mm f4S. Now, although you call it a kit lens, it's still part of the S line of lenses. There still seems to be some debate as to what the S actually stands for: special, silver, just S line. But the point of the matter is that these are lenses that are of a higher quality. So in theory, you can compare them to the gold banded lenses that we saw in the F mount. The interesting thing is they've actually given this gold band to a relatively small kit lens. However, I believe the 24 to 120mm f4, don't know where the S came from there, for the F mount actually has a gold band, which means there is a precedent for kit style lenses to actually have that designation. Now, given that this was one of the launch lenses for the Z cameras, it really had to stand out, and I'm really glad to say it does. In terms of image quality, this lens is absolutely sublime. It honestly has the kind of clarity, contrast, sharpness that I would expect out of a lens that costs twice as much. In fact, the 24 to 70mm 2.8s, which has since launched and costs 3 times as much as this lens, personally, I don't see much of an improvement in sharpness and contrast. Don't get me wrong, being able to stop down to 2.8 has its advantages, and for many people that's going to be their go-to lens, especially if they're professional photographers. However, someone like me who actually, I only really take photographs for fun these days, I think this is the perfect lens to have with you. In fact, last year I undertook a trip with my dad down to Italy to go to all the supercar factories around Modena. And the only lens and camera I took with me was the Z6 with this 24 to 70. And to be honest with you, I think I only missed 1 or 2 shots for not having, a range of other lenses with me. So it really is a do-it-all. And I'm certainly very pleased with how the images turned out. Now, some interesting things about this lens are that it has to be extended in order to be able to use it. So in its standard folded down position, it's obviously very small and fits into most bags, which is great. However, you actually have to extend it out to 24mm in order to use it. It's great that it folds down, and I do like it. Personally, I'd rather this were fixed in position. The reason is that if you're out and about in particular, you actually having to extend this out every time you want to use it is a bit cumbersome. And also you can't see anything through the viewfinder until you have extended it. So it does present something of a disadvantage. Obviously you can just leave it open, but I do worry that if you leave it open all the time, there is perhaps an increased risk of damaging the lens if you walk into something. I'm fairly accident prone, so for me that is a genuine concern. The petal style hood that it comes with is very nice, and I think it's a new sort of design for the Z mount, and I very much like it. I think that it's sort of quite chunky, which is a good thing, because again, if I bump into something, at least I'm not going to damage the front element. It takes 72mm filters, which is again fairly large for a kit lens, but again is small enough that you probably already have some filters in your bag. So if you want to use this with, say, a variable ND filter or circular polarizer, you absolutely can. In terms of controls, you have the manual and auto switch on the side, which is great. You also have the focus ring, or control ring as Nikon calls it, and obviously the zoom ring. Again, the focus ring is called the control ring because you can actually set it in the camera to do different functions. So say if you know you're just going to use this in autofocus, you can actually have this as an aperture ring. It's quite nice to have that flexibility, though personally I think the command ring implementation that Canon has undertaken on their RF series lenses, where they add a third ring to most of their lenses, is much better. On the Canon RP, I really like the fact that with their 24 to 105mm, I had the option to set the front command ring to, for instance, set the ISO or exposure compensation. It actually changed my workflow for the better. I don't like the fact that with Nikon I have to choose whether I want to have that focus ring or whether I want to have the control ring, because personally I'd like both. I do think that the focus ring is important to have as a focus ring, and I use it as such. It is fly-by-wire, so it's completely electronic, unfortunately, so there's no feel as to where the focus point is. You can spin this for days whilst it's switched off and it won't do a thing. Positive, negative, yeah, I don't know. In theory, it's got, you know, Nikon's new stepping motors in it, so it's faster focusing. On the other hand, you have no point of reference if you're actually trying to use it to focus. So that's perhaps a slight downside. The thing is, I don't think any of that matters. And the reason is that the picture quality is so good. Combined with the Z6 and the Z7, you just really can't believe the quality of the images that come out of this. They are incredibly sharp, the contrast is great, the colour's nice, uses all the fancy coatings that Nikon has, which means that the actual quality of the glass is as good as it could possibly be. The front element's coated to stop fingerprints and oil and such sticking to the front element, which is great too. So overall, very happy with the design. It's made in Thailand. Some people get really iffy as to where their Nikon lenses are made. Is it a real made in Japan lens, or is it made in China, or in this case, Thailand? Again, I don't think it matters. A lot of electronics, high quality or not, are made in different parts of the world, and for the most part I can't tell if I pick up a Japan-made Nikon lens or a Thailand-made Nikon lens or a China-made Nikon lens. In all honesty, it's all the same to me these days. They all seem built to a very high standard. Even when fully extended, there's very little movement here from the actual zoom ring, so this is well built. It is plastic with a metal bayonet connection, and part of the rear barrel is also metal, as well as the focus ring. So the quality of the materials is good. It is the same as the 50mm 1.8s, so perfectly adequate if you ask me. In terms of things I'd change, I'd actually put VR in this lens. I'm really surprised Nikon decided not to put vibration reduction technology into this lens. I know that the Z6 has 5-axis image stabilization, but I think there's a lot of people that are going to buy a Z6 and perhaps have a Z50 as their backup camera, which I think is fairly prudent, and I'm considering doing the same myself. But I'm finding it frustrating that there's no vibration reduction in here. There's no vibration reduction in the 50mm 1.8s or the 35 or the 20 or the 24 or the 85. They've literally left VR out of all of their primes, when actually it would have been probably a fairly easy thing to add in. And I think especially with their zooms, they really should have added it in here. Even the 24 to 70 2.8s doesn't have it. The point though is that for a kit lens, this is phenomenal. You can pick these up really cheap used if you didn't get one with your Z camera, and honestly I would. I don't think that there's that much justification for carrying around the extra weight from the 2.8 version of this lens. It is that much heavier and that much more cumbersome that actually, to me, you're probably going to get more shots for the fact that this was easier to have with you than you would with the 2.8, which you may have left at home because it was so heavy. Yes, if you're a professional, that use case goes out the window, but I think a lot of people buying the Z series at the moment are probably hobbyists, because professionals are probably waiting for the Z8, which is rumoured at this point. So at this point, I would get this. It is a lovely lens, and I think with the 14 to 30mm f4 it makes a nice combination. I hope Nikon launches a 70 to 200 f4 as well, because I think that would give you a really nice holy trinity of f4 lenses rather than 2.8. the low light capability of the Z6 and indeed the Z7 is so good that I don't think you actually need 2.8 in all your lenses these days, especially when the glass is this good. So all in all, this is a great lens to get for the Z series. I certainly recommend it. I use it on a regular basis. And yeah, it's definitely worth picking up if you have one of the Z cameras. I hope you found this useful. If you have any questions, as ever, pop them in the comments below. Also, if you like this video, give it a thumbs up. If you haven't already, please do subscribe, it really helps. And I hope you enjoy the new studio. I think the tabletop may change, but we're going to be stuck here for a while, so hopefully you don't mind the change in scenery. Thank you very much for watching, and I'll see you again next time. Thanks a lot. Goodbye.